What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from the quarantine zone again, and this time we are here with Jaret of Bowling for Soup. Thank you so much for being here today, man. Great to have you here.
Good to be here. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, anytime, anytime. It's great to be able to talk with you today. We got a brand new single out, which is "Getting Old Sucks," but everybody's doing it, and that could not be more true of a statement of a song ever. Uh, but like, is this maybe a good representation or a good first taste of what a follow up to your last full length album, Drunk Dynasty, will be, or is this just like a one off sort of thing?
No, it's definitely going to be a follow up. I mean, we're going to release a new album in the fall. Right now, the this actually flew up to the Poconos last summer after not having seen each other for. We didn't fly actually. I don't know why I just said that. Not having seen each other through the whole COVID thing, we actually got a tour bus and drove to the Poconos, and got up there and recorded a new record and really good. I'm super excited, and the response to this first song has been so good that I can't imagine that it's not going to be that people aren't going to be over the moon about it. I'm stoked.
Yeah, I'm stoked to hear it too. And do you think that being that this is the first full length Bowling for Soup album that we've gotten since 2016, do you consider this just a direct continuation of Drunk Dynasty, or is this almost like a new start for the band, almost kind of like a new invigoration?
With Drunk Dynasty, we definitely make it a little bit more just guitar driven, and this definitely has that vibe to it. But um, it's a lot more fun. I think it's a really fun album, and the stuff that we do say that has substance to it is there's some good reflecting back as well on this record, which is kind of cool to yeah, I didn't really do it on purpose. It just sort of ended up going that direction.
So are we going to be partying like it's a 1994 with this album? Or are we going to, get stuff that sounds like the debut self-titled album or Rock on the Honorable Ones or anything like that?
Definitely in that more in that vein than say sorry for partying, which we had a lot more ear candy and things like that going on. But it's a rocking album, and I can't wait for every song is it puts a smile on my face.
Was it a sort of like a preconceived idea to sort of make the album have more of like a throwback sound in a way, or was there kind of like a lot of experimentation or a lot of trial and error involved?
It was yeah, the idea was to just keep it simple, to simplify things, and to just again less keyboards and the things, flavor, so to speak, raw and just guitar driven, and so other stuff on there, but quite frankly, it's pretty reminiscent to say Drunk Enough to Dance.
Okay. And I've always thought that Bowling for Soup's music was really fun. I mean, I was, just like a lot of people, 1985 was one of the first songs I've heard. It definitely has this catchy element behind it. It almost seems like that's what your music is all about in a way, right? Like, has there ever been a time that where maybe like personal trials or personal tribulations also maybe influenced your sound in a way, or has your fun attitude just been a means of escape from, the harsh realities of the world that we're in?
No, I mean for sure. I think that we reflect on that quite a bit. Actually, our album Lunch Drunk Love was very much more of an angry record, and that stems from going through divorce and the you definitely, and even with this one, we've got um, a few songs that are observational as to what's going on in the world, but this way, I mean, we're not some 41. It's like those guys, they're like out there like meaning what they say, whereas we mean what we say, but we're trying to be hilarious about it.
Yeah. Well, because the thing is, even though you have a hilarious vibe behind it and always fun, I do find the music to be very technically impressive. It's not, like it's not like everything is very simplistic or anything like that. So, is there maybe ever a moment of seriousness in the songwriting process to like achieve your sort of like technical excellence?
Yeah, and the thing is that we've just gotten better. We early Bowling for Soup stuff. I always say to people, it's like if you're learning guitar, this is this is a great place to start, because quite frankly, we're doing. And so we have gotten better, and that shines through too. Having a producer like Linus of Hollywood who is so good and technically good to get that out of you, it doesn't hurt as well. Um, so yeah, we're that's don't really consider ourselves to be crazy good musicians, but we try to be tight.
Yeah, and you definitely do. I mean, you have the power chords working for you. You have like the good vocal range. You have like the intensity behind it. I think like you're being interviewed by Heavy New York. I've interviewed my fair share of black metal bands and death metal bands, but I even think to the suburban soccer moms, they would look at Bowling for Soup like it's Emperor. So
It's not far off. It's not far off.
yeah, definitely. And do you almost feel like that you only are able to write when you are like in sort of like a good like does is it fair to say that like every song that you have is representative of an emotion that you were feeling at a particular time in a way, or do you almost kind of like need to like put yourself in a scenario or put yourself in a sort of mindset in order to get into that songwriting mode?
I think the ideas come from things like that. The ideas definitely come from you know, um a place of inspiration because I'll write the idea down on my phone or I will that's where a lot of concepts and things come from, is that just out during my day and then this happens or with my wife or the kids or just I see something happen in the world or on TV. Um but that's really what it is for me writing wise is just when once the concept is there and then as the riff um that part will just come later, once I've got the concept and I can get like a really good hook. Everything else I just build around that, and so sometimes definitely it comes from a place of and you could kind of tell, I think, with my songs. It's like Goodbye Friend or When We Die or Turbulence. Those are more than Go to Bed Mad was just is just after a stupid fight with the wife or whatever. It's not necessarily inspiration, but it's just like, wouldn't it be funny if I wrote a song about this? And so I did.
And next year is the 10 or the 20-year anniversary of Drunk Enough to Dance. So like I mean, going back, what was that sort of album all about in a way? Because I mean, that was an album that many people gravitated towards. Can we maybe get a tour where you play that in full or something like that?
Man, I've been thinking about it actually. We did that in the UK, and actually, there is a DVD of it live from Brixton where it just happened tour. So we do play the whole record. Um, I uh, the but yeah, I've been thinking. I mean, that is it's such a big album for us. It's such a big album for the fans. It was our sophomore effort, on Jive, second record on a major, and it's really when it's sink or swim. And at first, it did not look good. At first, the bitch song did not do great. It wasn't an instant thing, and we were still going to rock radio at the time. And then Girl the Bad Guys Want, goes to pop radio, gets a Grammy nomination, and just it was crazy. And that's where the success in the United States really took off. In the UK, we were already doing really well. So it's an important album, and definitely one of those ones where I listen back to it every time I'm like, okay, this is why so many people call this their favorite album. Because as an artist, you especially like Sorry for Partying, Lunch, those two, when we recorded those special in that like I wanted that to be their favorite Bowling for Soup album ever, but it's an unfair thing. We've been together 27 years. It's not like I don't feel like Bad Religion is going to write my favorite Bad Religion record next year, it's always going to be Generator or Stranger Than Fiction.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. If you have a formula that you stick with, people would say you're repetitive. If you experiment too much, people would say that you're inconsistent. But like, do you think that when you have album like Drunk Enough to Dance and it does have a sort of impact that it does, did that maybe like influence the direction that you took on a Hangover You Don't Deserve or the Great Burrito Extortion Case, etc.?
Yeah, those two records in particular, I think it actually had to, because we were. I wouldn't say that I sat down and just decided I need to write hits now, but it's always in the back of your head. I mean, when you've had a hit or two, Punk Rock 101 and Drunk and Girl the Bad Guys Want both did really well on Drunk Enough to Dance. So you're coming off of that, and like I said, a Grammy nomination. There is a lot of pressure. We were still on the label at that time, so there's a lot of pressure from there. There's a lot of pressure from, you know, radio stations and friends and things like that at the time. So those two records in particular, I think, I definitely tried to write hits, and we obviously it went well. After that, though, I my mindset was totally different. I mean, sorry for a part record for to be our big whatever you call it. I don't know our why Sergeant Pepper's. It's just to be the best album we'd ever done, and unfortunately we got dropped as it was coming out, so it really never got promoted, which was a shame. But it's just pretty much writing for myself and for people who like our song.
And also, this year is the 10-year anniversary of Fishin' for Woes too. So, and I almost feel like that was almost sort of like a transition from what we would hear on Lunch Drunk Love and Drunk Dynasty in a way. Is it fair to say that Fishin' for Woes? Because like I feel like people who haven't discovered you on Drunk Enough to Dance, I was in second grade when that album came out, but I was in
Right.
11th grade when Fishin' for Woes came out. So that was kind of like how like many people were sort of gravitating towards you, because I feel like there was almost kind of like people, there was like two eras. Like I think of the early era, people were gravitating towards you and My Chemical Romance and AFI and that. But then like I feel like in 2011, when sort of like the Scene Kid movement was huge, and We Came as Romans and Asking Alexandria and Bring Me the Horizon were just taking off, I almost feel like people sort of went backwards and fell in love with you guys again.
Man, it's spot on. It just keeps happening. I mean, it's genre is one of those where, again, now, where it's like, uh, getting old sucks, but everybody's doing it, and it's the biggest song we've done since before Drunk Dynasty. It's like bigger than any song on that whole record. So it comes in these waves, and I don't feel like we ever bottom out, but definitely in the area where you're talking about 2000, say 2009 to 2010, 13, something like that. uh, I wouldn't say it was a lull, but we could definitely sort of plateauing, and that was scary. And we were going through a bunch of stuff, in our lives at the same time. Uh, it was definitely starting to kind of try to figure out what we were going to do. Well, we got dropped after Sorry for Partying came out, and Fishing for Woos was basically, yeah, are we going to do this? Are we going to keep doing it, or are we giving up? And so we managed to get that record out. We got dropped from our label, and Turbulence was on there. It did really great, and we toured on that record, and people bought tickets, and so we were able to keep going. But it definitely takes the wind out of your sail, and you as a band have spent 2 years, you know, writing the songs, recording this record, getting it all done, making the videos, and then all of a sudden, your label goes, "We're dropping you, and you don't have the rights to this, so uh, see ya," and you're like, we thought we had 5 singles on that record.
Oh,
So, anyway, I think it's full circle. We were able to do Fishing for Woos, and we were able to do Lunch Drunk Love, which was, another transition into, being able to write about my feelings and where I was. And then, as you said, Drunk Dynasty being the last original music that we put out. So it's time.
yeah. And it definitely is, because I feel like even though you do write from a personal place, I think, with all this bullshit that we went through, it is time for like you know, music with a more positive energy and whatnot. And I think also there's like a great resurgence as well. There's the My Chemical Romance reunion that everybody's dying to see, but then you have new up and coming bands like Meet Me at the Altar, which I think you and them touring together will be a great show. And
Yeah.
like, you see how bands like Knuckle Puck are still killing it. I almost feel like that it is the time for Bowling for Soup. I've always thought that you've made records that were able to be innovative and original. You stayed true to your sound, but there were also, with a lot of them, were conveniently perfect for the times as well. I personally have always thought that time was kind of on your side throughout your career, but that's just my analysis
Thank
of
you,
it.
man. Yeah, I mean, obviously coming up, and starting in '94 and figuring out time, other because we're from Texas, and so there were no pop punk bands here, and so the even just trying to get our footing here was very difficult. And then as Blink and that thing starts happening, obviously Green Day is a totally different animal. Themselves pop punk, and they're probably right, but at the same time, pop punk kids love Green Day, so where you put them. But they they had already stormed the beach, and with Blink, and then and us, and Sum 41, and Newfound Glory, and Simple Plan, and All American Rejects, and those of us who were able to come take it and then go to the radio and all of this. Through the Warp Tour years and all of that, and then, as you said, there's that whole thing of the other kind of music, which we thought, I remember in 2014 we played Warp Tour up, and it was that, as you said, like the scene bands, Asking Alexandria, and we were like, oh my god, like people are gonna hate us, because these bands are heavy, man. This is, I don't know, guys, and those bands were so gracious and coming up to us and be like, man, if it wasn't for you guys, we wouldn't be here. And, it's just over and over hearing that. And you're like, oh man, we weathered that pop radio storm. So just don't hate us for crossing over to the other side anymore. So,
Well, I think it was bands like Atreyu and bands like Under Oath. I think in 2014 is when Atreyu reunited as well. So like, I think there was a lot of people who were kind of like gravitating towards you again, because whenever a band reunites, there's always people going back and just listening not only to that band but everything that they were listening to at that time. I was reading that when MCR announced their reunion, like everybody was listening to From Autumn to Ashes again, and everybody was listening to Under
yeah.
Oath again, everybody was listening to AFI again, the Used. So I think it is sort of like a perfect storm. And you mentioned Green Day too, and like a lot of those other bands, like when you listen to like the first screen, like when you listen to Dookie, I mean Dookie was straight punk at that time, and then you look at My Chemical Romance's first album, I mean that was post hardcore in a way. So like I think there's always been an evolution in a lot of those sounds. A lot of these quote unquote pop punk bands were a lot more raw, I would say, when they first started.
For sure. I think we all sort of find the polish, or we don't. It's like I mentioned Sum 41 earlier. I mean, that's a great example of a band who was just straightforward, in your face. First couple of, I mean, they'll even tell you they're a metal band now, and I mean, they're shredded, and and they're pissed, and it's an awesome, fun show to watch. But that get away with, it's Green Day's the same way. It's like they have an album called Dookie. And, the next thing like it's like they have a Broadway play that's about this gas shit. You know what I mean? And it's as you said, it's an interesting thing to watch bands, whether or not they're going to evolve into something else, thing to the next level, or stay the course. I feel like Bowling for Soup is more of a just to stay the course kind of band. Bad Religion, No Effects. You buy those records, you know what they're going to sound like
Yeah.
before you get them. And that's all by design for us, because it was like, man, we don't have that in us. Like I definitely don't think people want to hear us talk about politics.
Yeah.
Uh, Frankly, we drink too much to be super technical with our music on stage. So let's people smile.
Yeah. Well, again, I do think that the music is technically impressive because it's not just being able to shred all the time or go like crazy blast beats. There's good songs. I mean, that's technical and that's the hardest part of it. I think you
Mm.
guys did a great job with that, and I think that's what a lot of these bands have done. Like, a lot of my, I listen to, a lot of, death metal bands and all that and whatever, and I love those bands. But like people are saying like, oh, there's no soloings in this, pop punk or this punk rock music. There's no technical excellence. I'm like, sure, you're maybe right. Like, yeah, I do think Yngwie Malmsteen could shred circles around all of you guys. No offense, but like in the end, they write great songs.
Yeah,
Who
yeah.
cares how many beats per minute they could do, or the 17 and a half minute long guitar solos or whatever.
It's super important too. I mean, like for us, also remember that our focus is vocal melody and singing, and that's really where it all the important stuff. The music is all built around that. I mean, like our drummer, I would put him up against anybody, shreds, and you get that on records, but like you said, we're not giving him the opportunity to do just tons and tons of like really super fast and stuff like that because it's just not what we sound like. But yeah, man, I do appreciate that. There's a lot of thought that goes into things, and again, even with guitar, the solos that we um are specifically to put another, it's like we want you to be sitting around having your coffee and whistling that.
Yeah.
That's a
And definitely, that's what I call Bowling for Soup's music whistle inducing.
yeah, there you go. I like that.
Yeah. Ooh, that should be the name of a song.
That is good. That is really good. I am a very good whistler, and so we should maybe put that on display as
Uh,
well.
can you whisper the Trooper by Iron Maiden?
Whistle the Trooper.
Yeah.
Uh,
All right. That was pretty good. That was pretty good. Now, what about Homage for Satan by DSI? No, I'm kidding.
what's crazy is that you may not know this about me, but I in high school, I hair metal, and by the time I was a senior in high school, my cover band did Testament, Obituary, Slayer. Like we listened to that stuff. We gosh, all of that. I mean, again, I followed Pantera from the time they were a hair metal band,
Yeah.
up through the thing. But Exhorder, I don't know if you've ever heard of that band.
I interviewed them in 2019.
Yeah, Exhorder is really not credited, but but that Pantera sound evolved from that relationship with Exhorder. And they took it to the next level, obviously. But yeah, I was really big into that stuff. So
Yeah.
like when I toured with Andrew WK at Warped Tour, then found out that his guitar player had been an Obituary, I lost my mind. I was like, I'm fangirling crazy.
I mean, it's definitely a good thing to fanboy over. I mean, they're a great band, and yeah, and it's always good. It's good because I also think that we see the elitism in the division online, but when we're at a show, I mean, I saw Ice Cube play right before Godsmack and Guns N' Roses. I saw like. You see like how Billie Eilish is a huge Typo Negative fan. You see like I think the future is genreless, and I ultimately think that bands like you guys have ultimately sort of paved that road to a genreless world.
It's a funny thing. That's a really interesting point. And the crazy thing is that exists already in the world. It's just that, I'm 49. When I was in high school, you listen to the kind of music that your friends listen to. And that's what REM kids were over here, and then the Poison kids were here, and and when we started going to the UK in 2000, I remember I got an email one day, and then, you guys are my favorite. You guys and Rage Against the Machine. And I was like, whoa, that is such an interesting duo of favorite. And it really did. It sort of, it woke me. We were evolving into that as a society. And that's the reason why they're better over there too, is because there's diversity there. You don't really, you're not locked in as well. Lollapalooza was such a cool thing, right? It was all over the place, and mixing these things because people are just fans of music. And I think that's where we're getting, it's okay to like Billie Eilish and Post Malone, but you can also like Green Day and Slipknot, and and not just bands that you can buy the shirt at J.C. Penney's, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, well, I have a Hybrid Theory tattoo for a reason, and I've always said if it wasn't for Hybrid Theory by Linkin Park, I would not be into Tomb of the Mutilated by Cannibal Corpse.
There
So,
you go. I love it. I love the connection there.
so before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time. I always love these conversations where we get to nerd out on music. And get to plug the band at the same time. Is there just anything else with Bowling for Soup that you'd like to promote? You said new album will be coming out in the fall.
Yeah.
This will be uploaded by midnight, so if you're not allowed to say it yet, don't say it here. But is there anything? We'll be seeing Bowling for Soup on the road quite a bit, right?
On the road, you go to bowlingforsoup.com for tickets. We actually just released a cover that I think a lot of people are going to be stoked about. If you haven't heard it, Bowling for Soup doing "Where's the Love" by Hanson. And that video is out. The single's out. Go stream it wherever you stream. And like I said, lots of new music in the fall from me. And dude, I hopefully see you in New York sometime soon.
We'd love to have you here, but thank you so much. Everybody, we are here with Bowling for Soup. New stuff coming very soon. This is Alex from Heavy New York, and we will see you next time.